Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Hello and welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Tuesday, July 8th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far today. This is episode 566 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. For those tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. Of course, appreciate all of those tuning in on all the different audio podcast platforms. And today we've got some more New York Jets news and notes to discuss as we are another day closer to the beginning of training camp. ESPN is going through their top 10 players at each position, taking from executives, coaches, and scouts are all ranking these players. And Quinnen Williams landed in the top 10 among defensive linemen entering the 2025 season. So wanted to break that down today on the podcast and just look at Quinnen Williams' overall outlook as we enter the 2025 campaign. And I also want to dive into an NFL analyst urging the New York Jets to sign a veteran wideout. We will break that down a little bit later on. If it's realistic, if it should happen, if it will happen, we'll take a look at that as well. Before we begin, though, we got to tell you about our podcast partners, starting with our friends over at BetUS, America's favorite online sportsbook. If you want to get in on any of the sports betting action, check out BetUS and use my link in the description of this video to get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. Also, our friends over at SeatGeek. If you want any of the hottest tickets in sports or entertainment, check out SeatGeek. And if it's your first time using SeatGeek, use promo code BubsOnSports for $20 off your first purchase. If you're looking to secure Week 1 Jets Steelers tickets, check them out. And anything else that you can buy a ticket for, SeatGeek has it. And also make sure to check out Huga House if you want any of their awesome selection of hats, sweatshirts, t-shirts, some excellent summer arrivals, and use code BUBS for 15% off any purchase and get yourself some Huga House swag. So here we go, episode 566. Thank you as always for joining me here on a Tuesday program, July 8th, another day closer to the New York Jets reporting to training camp and the New York Jets beginning training camp. Cannot wait. We'll have you covered here, all of it on the podcast. So the ESPN, as they do every single year, this time of year as we get closer to training camp, preseason, all that good stuff, goes through every single position and ranks their top 10 players, and they interview executives, coaches, and scouts across the NFL to come to their consensus. And Quinnen Williams has been on this list many times, rightfully so, and popped up on this list once again today, and I wanted to dive into it. So ESPN ranked Quinnen Williams on this list at number 5. Now, for those of you who are curious, so he is top 5. The 4 players in front of him were Dexter Lawrence at number 1, Chris Jones number 2, Jalen Carter number 3, and Jeffrey Simmons number 4. And in Quinnen rounding out the top 5 there, very easily inside the top 10. Here was what ESPN had to say on Quinnen Williams. Quote, Williams has been one of the constants amid persistent Jets changes. He's going on 3 straight Pro Bowls and has 23 and a half sacks during that span, though 12 of them came in 2022. This was a quote from an NFL personnel staffer, quote, true 3-down player, talented inside rusher who is fully capable against the run. Another note here, Williams is solid yet unspectacular in most categories, including pass rush win rate 13.4%, incompletions credited 16, and quarterback hits 18. One complaint comes from an AFC executive is that Williams gets pushed around in the run game at times, but that's nitpicking an elite player. One AFC scout said Williams didn't have much help around him inside, prompting defenses to key on him. He also battled through a hamstring injury. Final quote here from an NFL coordinator. He's a guy you want. He's a guy you have to dedicate a game plan to. One of the most complete interior guys in the game. So that's what ESPN had to say on the New York Jets all-pro pass rusher in the interior there in Quinnen Williams. And I think there's some interesting notes to take there from some of those executives, personnel guys, coaches, all that stuff, of course, who makes up this list of 10 players at each position. Also came out earlier today, we'll say this to note, the NFL Top 100 list is coming out now as well. Quinnen was 87th on that list. I'm sure we'll see a couple other Jets land on that list before that is all said and done. But it is interesting because I think Quinnen Williams, you look at his numbers last year, he was not the normal dominant player that he typically is. And I think a couple of those quotes, couple of those, the analysis, what you take away from that is spot on in terms of he didn't have much help next to him last year. And I think a lot of Jet fans looked at Quinnen Williams' season as a bit of a disappointment, as a bit of a down year. And the stats back it up. And if you watch them, it certainly backed it up a bit, but he still remained, even for a down year for his standards, one of the best at his position in the game, obviously showing here still ranking inside the top 10 comfortably at number 5. But the biggest thing for Quinnen Williams in this Jets defense entering this 2025 season is the help that he's going to get next to him and somebody needing to emerge next to him, because of a big reason why Quinnen Williams has been double teamed, even at times has been triple teamed, and has to eat those up and try and fight through those and still be productive, which he has been, which is impressive in itself. Somebody's got to emerge next to him. And who that will be, you still really don't know. That's something that you're going to ultimately find out during training camp. Is it a Derek Nottie that can emerge as that legitimate one tech next to Quinnen Williams, big body, run stuffer type of player that can take some of the attention off of Quinnen, where he can do serious damage, get less double teams, and get to the quarterback easier than last year, where they were rolling out a unit that saw guys next to him of the likes of Javon Kinlaw and Solomon Thomas, who don't strike fear at all in you as a defensive coordinator. And teams were just scheming to completely take Quinnen Williams out of the equation because they didn't have anybody else to worry about. So is it a Derek Nottie? Is it a Byron Cowher? Do you get a Leonard Taylor in year number 2 as someone who can emerge? And I think Leonard Taylor is an interesting X factor in the whole Jets defensive line equation, because you kind of look at the way the Jets approach the interior defensive line this offseason. You kind of get the feeling that maybe they have a belief in a guy like Leonard Taylor, young year 2 player, of course, the UDFA out of Miami, who flashed in the preseason last year and a bit in some of the limited regular season snaps that he saw. Potentially their reasoning to not going out and making major moves in the interiors, hoping or believing that Leonard Taylor could emerge in year number 2 next to Quinnen Williams as that 1-2 punch in the interior. We'll see. But you look at the way Quinnen Williams produced last year. We talked about it all the time. Of course, one of the key pieces on this team. 16 games played, 37 total tackles, 6 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, 18 quarterback hits, even in a year that was labeled as a bit of a down year with no help next to him, which is the biggest reason for that, right? The defensive line, what Joe Douglas did to that unit last year was awful, right? Even with that, he still finished 7th in pressures with 54. He finished 6th in the NFL in hurries with 38. Now, the run stops, 23 was a bit down, lowest since his rookie season. Missed tackle rate, a little bit up. And I think, again, that's a lot of it has to do with guys that were next to him trying to, in a way, make up for some of the mistakes that were happening alongside of him. You hope that's not the case this year, or at least is something where the Jets can cover it up more in this defense with Aaron Glenn, who I expect schematically, him and Steve Wilkes, much different than what we saw previously, of course, with Robert Saleh. You look at what Quinnen Williams did in 2023, the last time the Jets had a fully healthy, complete defensive line, which you hope they can get that this year. You'll get Jermaine Johnson back, of course, on the edge, which is a big deal. Another year of Will McDonald. You still, right, Quinnen himself in that interior. You look at some of those numbers 2 years ago, third in pressures with 70, second in quarterback hurries, third in 42 with run stops with 42, 5.5 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, 10 or 20 quarterback hits rather. Still, not only from the pass rushing perspective, but from the run stopping perspective, another area that I think not many people talk about with Quinnen Williams, but it's been a strength for him. And run stopping is never the flashy thing that people use to gauge, defensive linemen. It's always the sacks, the pressures, the flashy getting to the quarterback stuff, but being able to stop the run up until a bit of a bump in the road last year was a strength for Quinnen Williams as well. And you hope that just in general, this is a Jets defense that needs to improve in that area. Now, I want to read you some other numbers from Quinnen. And again, 3-time Pro Bowler here, first-team All-Pro, and why I think Jets fans should have high expectations, should believe in a bounce back, should believe in him getting back to where he was specifically 2022, 2023. Just look at where he's ranked these last 3 years, even with last year included. Since 2022, he's had 176 pressures. That's second in the NFL. 13.2% pressure rate, third. 23.5 sacks, third. 97 run stops, ninth. A 4.4% run stop rate, 16th. 17 tackles for loss, sixth. He is sixth in overall Pro Football Focus grade, pass rush grade, and run defense grade. And his 2% tackle for loss rate, 13th. So top 15 in pretty much all those categories, top 3 second in some of those categories as well. And still finished last year with a 76.1 pass rush grade, which was still 16th. The run defense grade certainly took a dip. That needs to improve, especially from a year prior where he finished first among defensive linemen with a 90.4 run defense grade. So the whole topic here, still top 5 in the league, coming off a bit of a down year, but a new system. You hope somebody can emerge next to him. I mean, you hope, it has to, somebody is better than a Javon Kinlaw, the likes of Michael Clemens. And I know Clemens is still on the roster, but hopefully should play a lesser of a role this year. I don't even know why he's still on this team. We've talked about it all the time, but Solomon Thomas, guys that were just, I guess, is dead weight the right way to put it? Just guys that down in and down out when they're out there just don't strike fear. And it was Quinnen Williams, and that's it. One of these other guys got to emerge, and if they can, I really think that's where you see Quinnen get back to that dominant player who he still was at times last year. Still good enough as a top 5 defensive tackle, and that's been the case for the last couple seasons now. He's a beast. He's one of the best players on this team. He's your core player, locked up long-term, of course. Still young, prime of his career, 27 years old. So ESPN wanted to discuss that, ranking Quinnen there, of course, as the 5th best defensive tackle in the NFL. Top 10, comfortably in the top 10 across the league. So that's the first topic here today on the program. I also wanted to get to another topic here, wide receiver. We've, of course, talked a ton of wide receiver here on the podcast, and rightfully so. Arguably one of the Jets' weaker positions outside of Garrett Wilson right now, full of questions, wondering if they're going to make another move. But Leger Douzabal, NFL analyst, of course, CBS Sports, tweeted out a few days ago an interesting take. Here it was. Quote, if I'm the Steelers and Jets, so throws the Steelers in here, but we focus from the Jets angle, I'm taking a close look at the veteran wide receiver market before camp. Keenan Allen and Gabe Davis both still available. Both would be number 2 for either team right now. So there's Douzabal essentially urging the Jets here to go out and bring in another wide receiver for this room. And we've talked a ton of wide receiver. We've talked a ton about potential veteran free agent wide receivers, whether it's a Tyler Boyd, whether it's an Amari Cooper. We've already mentioned Keenan Allen. It's just to the point now, and we've said this a couple times, and I'll bring it up again. Keenan Allen, I want to focus on the most here over Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis was such a bad year last year, and I know he missed some time, but was a non-factor even when he was out there after he got a pretty big contract from Jacksonville. Keenan Allen's an interesting one just because that's been the guy that's been talked about more. 12 seasons in the NFL, entering his 13th year. Of course, spent 11 of the 12 so far with the Chargers, spent 1 year last year with the rookie Caleb Williams with the Bears in Chicago. 33 years old. I just don't see. We have gotten to a point, right? When we were in minicamp OTAs, you were wondering, could the Jets go on a little bit of a summer free agency spending spree, right? You had the post-June 1 cuts. They gained salary cap, all of that stuff. I just think we've gotten to a point here as you get closer to training camp, and we've mentioned this a ton. This is a Jets coaching staff that's putting a lot of stock, essentially, in their coaching staff that they can get more out of this wide receiver room, that they believe enough in this wide receiver room. I really don't think we're going to get one of these moves. I really don't think the Jets are going to sign a veteran wide receiver at all. I don't. If anything, it's going to be the end of camp where if the Jets and this coaching staff really start to see holes form and really start to lose belief, then maybe they make a change. But right now, they believe in this staff being able to get the most out of not only Garrett Wilson's in a tier of his own, but Allen Lazard, getting more out of him potentially. Not only just him, though, these other guys. Getting more out of Tyler Johnson, a guy that's flashed a bit in his NFL career, but hasn't done a ton. Arian Smith, getting more out of him, turning him into really just a track star speed wide receiver and turning him into a legitimate threat from a pass catching perspective, route running, all of those things, being a bit more physical, having more success in man against man coverage where he struggled in his collegiate career. Arian Smith has a lot to work on. Seeing what you get out of a Malachi Corley, who even knows if he makes the roster. I think this is a coaching staff that thinks they're going to get more out of these guys, and I also think they have a higher belief in this room. And it's not even just that. Just the Jets' plan in general has been young, under 30 players. They have the second youngest roster in the NFL, only ahead of the Green Bay Packers, a complete 180 from where they were a year ago. If this was Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, 100%, they would probably go out and bring in a Keenan Allen, one of these veteran guys. But that's not the Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji way so far. It's young, banking on upside, hoping they can get more out of these guys, not going after the north of 30, aging, couple years left, looking at the back of the playing card type of players, which Keenan Allen would fit that bill. And I think Keenan Allen actually had a decent year last year. He had 70 receptions, 744 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 15 games played. Now, a couple of areas that he did struggle in. He did have some drop issues last year. He had 8 drops, which was the third most he's had in his career in a single season. And he had the highest drop rate in his career at 10.3%. So that is a little bit of an alarming area that he did see some struggles in, which he typically doesn't in his career, but saw that last year. Again, 33 years old, you're going to see a bit of a decline. He's at best now a number 2, which is what he served behind DJ Moore. I just don't see it happening. All right, this is a Jets team that's young talent, young talent, young talent. Develop. Second youngest roster in football. You look at this receiver room. I think they do value Josh Reynolds a lot in terms of he knows the system. He had a good offseason. We'll see what he does in training camp, but I do think they truly believe in him as the number 2. And I also just think the Jets look at this roster, this offense in general and say, and we've said this a lot, you have your receiving, I guess, or your receiving outlook is probably Garrett at number 1, the obvious one. I would say Breece number 2. And then Mason Taylor, probably number 3. And then your fourth leading pass catcher, your fourth pass catcher in terms of targets, is probably your number 2 receiver in Josh Reynolds. And the reason that's been brought up so much, and the reason that's kind of the way it probably will work if everything goes as planned, is that's the way it went in Detroit. Tanner Engstrand coming from Detroit. You look at Josh Reynolds' role in Detroit. That was it. He was the number 2 receiver in terms of targets, receptions, yards, all that stuff, but was 4th on the team behind LaPorta Gibbs. Same situation here with Breece, Mason Taylor most likely being your number 2, number 3, and then your wide receiver 2 essentially being your 4th highest producing pass catcher. And I think that's another reason, another way the Jets view this, as to not needing to bring in, or not going to bring in, a 30-plus-year-old at the position. It's what it feels like. I just don't see it happening. We've talked about this a ton. I just don't see this happening at all. I would be surprised. Very surprised. Even Gabe Davis, who I know is still in his 20s, 26, I think. Even him, I just don't see it. If anything, after training camp, late, which that would be, in my opinion, the most realistic. At this point, no, though. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What are your thoughts on Quinnen Williams' ESPN ranking 5th best defensive tackle in the NFL? Your thoughts on the New York Jets being urged to sign a veteran wide receiver? Do you see it happening? Don't see it happening? What is your take on that? Let me know what you think about that and any other Jets takes down below. Appreciate your support as always. A lot more content coming your way. Until next time, JETS. Jets, Jets, Jets.